Twitter upon myself recently when I came upon a tweet by Oatmeal, a longtime data miner and reporter on Nintendo games who I've cited a number of times, including on Clamblitz mechanics and the inner workings of Splatoon's ranking systems. Oatmeal says, "I really don't understand what drives people to do dangerous super jumps. Like, I'll be in a fight surrounded by 3 enemy players and a respawning teammate will still be like, better super jump to him. Like, can't y'all see on the turf map I'm being mobbed right now, lol?" While, of course, part of this tweet might just be to vent, and that isn't lost on me, I happen to actually be in a pretty good position to offer some answers to that question. In starting to type up my thoughts in a reply, I realized that it might be helpful to more people if I just release a video with my answer instead. There are a lot of people that struggle with bad super jumps, and while I've covered what to look for in a good super jump before in my super jump safety quiz, I don't think I've really talked about what tends to cause a bad super jump, which feels equally important. My thoughts could easily be incomplete, but I do think I have at least a few good ideas about what might be causing bad super jumps. The first is the lack of a habit you've probably noticed if you've watched my gameplay. As soon as I get splatted, I always open the map immediately and leave it open on screen while I'm splatted. I'm not turning my eyes away or anything. I'm looking intently at this map to see what's happening in-game during that time. Sometimes you might actually get better information by looking at the cam of the player who splatted you, but usually if a player doesn't open the map, they'll have less of an understanding of the game state they're about to enter. A good rule of thumb is to ensure that the area you're about to jump to is painted your color and will not be within range of an approaching enemy player by the time you get there. Who has control of which areas on the map? Where are fights happening? Is there anyone on the enemy team your teammates haven't spotted yet? Any of these questions could lead you to the conclusion that it's unsafe to jump in. But if you aren't collecting the information you need to answer those questions, it's easy to land yourself in some trouble. If you're watching the map the whole time and really getting a sense of the flow of the game, seeing how fast the enemy team is moving up and where you project they'll be after a certain amount of time, you're most of the way to understanding where it'll be safe to jump. But even if you're keeping your map open, one other mistake it's easy to make is to forget that super jumping takes a significant amount of time. It's absurdly fast relative to your other movement options, and it's also fun, and time flies while you're having fun. But super jumping does take a good 3 seconds or so, and a lot happens in this game in 3 seconds. You can't just look at the map at the time you initiate the super jump and assume things are going to look exactly the same way as soon as you land. If your team is outnumbered and the enemy team is clearly moving toward them, you have to project how far the enemy team is going to move, not by the time you press the A button and start jumping, but by the time you land. Because they're not impeded right now, so they're going to keep moving during the time that you're jumping. This is what really tests your skill at reading the map the most. You have to spot patterns in the movement of enemy ink over time to be able to do this, and that takes some practice. All the more reason to keep the map open the entire time you're splatted, so you're getting 10 seconds of practice reading the map instead of 2. Sometimes players will see the danger the map suggests and jump anyway due to an incorrect risk-reward analysis. For example, some players might over-rely on drop roller or dualies dodge rolls to keep themselves safe, or think that stealth jump will make their jump too hard to see, when, in fact, opponents are close enough to see it. Some players may just think, well, if I jump here, and the opponent looks at my jump instead of my teammate will splat them. Only to get into the air, find out that their teammate has lost the 1v1 they were in, and that now their jump is being camped. The more advanced a player gets, the more risks they'll know they can safely take. For example, I have jumped into situations where my jump target was engaged with the enemy team because I recognized from the map that my teammate was at an advantage in that fight, and I could correctly predict that they were going to win that fight and keep me safe. This heavily depends on your ability to predict that fight though, because if you mispredict it, it's just a bad jump. It's typically better to play it safe. The value of you being in play a few seconds earlier usually isn't worth there being a major risk that you're sent back to spawn for 10 seconds plus however long it takes to get back out onto the map, and that you lose a bunch of special charge. Generally, in a vacuum so to speak, The solution to the problem of bad super jumps is to have the map open and interpret it properly. But there is a factor that I think can cause people not to do that, which I'll also address. There's a broad category of emotions that I'll just call excitement that can cause someone to be less diligent about tasks like this map check. And part of the solution to bad super jumps for a player might be to manage this kind of emotion. When a player starts tilting, often one of the first things that goes away is their judgment about their super jumps. But tilting isn't the only feeling I'm referring to. For example, if a team is having a good push right now and scored enough to take the lead, and you just got taken out of play but want to get back in there quickly to keep snowballing, that eagerness might cause you to miss the fact that the push is probably dead at this point and it's better to hold your ground from a safer position than to try to push for even more. I'll probably make a video about this another time because it was something that really helped a team I played on through a tournament run at one point. But sometimes performing well and getting excited can cause us to make the same kind of sloppy mistakes that we make when we're tilting and getting angry at ourselves or others. I think the common theme of all of these emotions is that you're motivated by something psychological rather than something based on the facts of the game state to get back into play faster. It may be that you're motivated to keep doing what you were already doing well, or it may be that you're frustrated to have been removed from play and want your second chance to come faster so you can redeem yourself. Whatever is happening, you're itching to get back in there, and your excitement to rejoin play causes you to forget due diligence. That's way more of an answer to the question than Oatmeal intended. After all, this has been a bit more than the 280 characters you get on Twitter. But I hope that maybe it's helped you with understanding your own super jump decisions and helped you get into play just a little bit safer.